Hello friends, in today's class I am going to discuss numerical question based on IS-LM model. Who has studied IS-LM model using algebraic approach knows how to find out equilibrium level of income and equilibrium rate of interest rate using IS and LM equations, right? So anyone who has done algebraic analysis of IS-LM model would find it quite easy to do the numericals. However, here just an illustration that how do we go ahead about numerical question on IS-LM model. So it is here. I am talking about a question. I'm taking a question which has come in one of the examinations of introductory macroeconomics generic elective in past years. The question is like, there is an economy which is characterized by the informations. And what are the informations? You have consumption, which is given as C is equal to 360 plus 0.80 YD, where YD is equal to Y minus T. Here T is tax. It is autonomous tax, which has already been given. The value of tax is 200. Then there is investment function, which is given as 640 minus 6i. There is government expenditure, which is G is equal to 160. Price level in the economy is given by P is equal to 3. The economy is characterized by nominal money supply, which is 1200, and the demand for money function is also given, and that is L is equal to 0 to Y minus 4i. Remember, Y stands for income, I stands for interest rate. Now given this question, these informations, we have 5 questions which have been asked. We have 5 questions which have been asked, which to be solved on the basis of informations given for the economy. Number 1 question is that derive the IS and LM equations and also equilibrium level of income and interest rate for the economy. The second question is that what is the effect of rise in real money supply by 200 on the equilibrium level of income and interest rate. Third question, what is the effect of rise in government expenditure by 200 on the equilibrium level of income and interest rate, assuming no nominal money supply change, which remains at 1200. And fourth question is about computing fiscal and monetary policy multipliers. And fifth question is to find out required increase in government expenditure to reach at full employment, where full employment level of income is given by YF is equal to 4700, that means 4700. So we will try to solve each questions based on the informations given in the question, right? So let me solve the first question, right? Now how to solve the first question? The first question is about derivation of IS equation and LM equations, and thereby derivation of equilibrium level of income and equilibrium level of interest rate. So let me first derive IS equation and LM equation, right? And then we will derive equilibrium level of income and equilibrium level of interest rate, right? Now, how to derive IS equation for the economy, which is characterized by the informations given in the question. As you know, IS equation is derived assuming goods market is in equilibrium. IS equation is equation for goods market equilibrium. Now, what is the condition of goods market equilibrium? The condition of goods market equilibrium is Y is equal to aggregate demand, right? Now, we substitute all the components of aggregate demand which have been given in the question in this condition of equilibrium, in the condition of equilibrium of goods market, right? And try to derive IS equation. Okay, so let us see what are the components of aggregate demand. Components of aggregate demand here in the economy, in the question, are three. What are they? One is the consumption, second is the investment, and third is government expenditure. So we just pick from there and we write. So what do we have? We have consumption, right? What is consumption? Consumption is given as 360 plus 0.80 YD. So this is your consumption from the question. Then we have to put here the value of investment, another component of aggregate demand. And what is investment? Investment is given by 640 minus 6I, then plus third component of aggregate demand, which is government expenditure, and the government expenditure is given by 160, right? Now we solve this to find out equilibrium level of income, and we will get the IS equation. Let us solve it. So we write here Y, right, is equal to 360 plus 640. It makes how much? 1000, right? 1000 plus 0.80. What is YD? YD is Y, as you have seen in the question, that YD is equal to Y minus T. And what is the value of T? The value of T is 200, right? Value of T is 200 minus 6I plus 160, right? Now we solve it. You can write or Y is equal to 1000 plus 0.80Y minus 8 multiplied by 200. 0.8 multiplied by 200 will give you 160 minus 6I plus 160, right? Now we can write here Y is equal to, you see 160 is minus and here you got plus 160, so both get cancelled out. So we are left with 1000 plus 0.80y minus 6i, right? Now we need to calculate equilibrium level of income, and we will end up deriving IS equation, right? So if I take y to the left hand side, what do I get? Y minus 0.80y is equal to what? 1000 minus 6i, right? Or what do I get? I get 0.20y is equal to 1000 minus 6i, or I get y is equal to 1000 upon 0.20 will give you 5000, right? 1000 divided by 0.20 will give you 5000, minus 6 divided by 0.20 will give you 30i, right? So we have got equilibrium level of income, but in terms of interest rate, right? In terms of interest rate, which means to know equilibrium level of income, we must know interest rate. And where is the interest rate determined? Interest rate determined in the money market. Therefore, we need to derive LM equations to solve the value of equilibrium income, because goods market and money market both are interdependent. However, this is what you call IS equations. This is your IS equation. So let me write it here, right? So we have got IS equation here, right? Okay. Now, once we have drawn IS equation, we can derive LM equation also. We can derive LM equation also. Okay. How do we derive LM equation? Again, LM equation stands for money market equilibrium. So we will start with condition of money market equilibrium, and we end up deriving LM equation, right? Now, what is the condition of money market equilibrium? Money market equilibrium condition, right? In fact, when we derive LM curve, right, we derive LM curve only on the basis of condition of equilibrium in money market. Any point, right, which is presented in the space between two axes, one axis consists of interest rate, another axis consists of income, right? So only that point in the space between what you call interest rate axis and income axis would be characterized by money market equilibrium, which lies on LM curve. Similarly here, LM equation we derive here on the basis of condition of money market equilibrium. And condition of money market equilibrium is what? It is what you call L is equal to money supply, right? And which money supply? Real money supply. So L is equal to M by P, right? Now L is already given, and what is the L? L is given as what you call 0.2 y minus 4 I is the money demand equation, which is given in the question, is equal to M by P, right? Money demand must be equal to money supply to fulfill the conditions of money market equilibrium, right? So you have given in the question value of M, which is 1200 nominal money supply, and price is given by 3. So what do we get? We get 0.2 y minus 4i is equal to 400, right? Now if I try to find out, I can write it here. 4i is equal to 0.2y minus 400, right? Or I can write I is equal to 0.05y. If I divide 0.2 by 4, I get 0.05y, right? Minus, if I divide 400 by 4, then we get 100, right? Now here I have got the equilibrium interest rate, but to calculate equilibrium interest rate, I must know equilibrium level of income, right? Assuming that money market is dependent upon goods market, right? So we get here, right, an equation which shows positive relationship between interest rate and income. That is what you find in LM curve, right? There is positive relationship between interest rate and income. I am relating this mathematics with algebraic expression of money market, as well as I am also relating to graphical aspect of money market, right, or IS-LM model. So I is equal to 0.05 y minus 100. This is what you call your LM equation, right? So I write here LM equation to be what? I is equal to 0.05 y minus 100, right? So we have been able to derive IS equations and LM equations. Is it clear? How do we derive IS equation and LM equation? IS equation we derive with assumption of goods market equilibrium, y is equal to aggregate demand, right? And we put the value of components of aggregate demand, right, in that condition of equilibrium, and we derive IS equation. Similarly, to derive LM equations, we start with condition of money market equilibrium and substitute the value of money demand and money supply, right? When I am talking about money supply, it is real money supply, which is nominal money supply divided by price, and we end up deriving an equation, right, which is your LM equations, right? Now both equations are unsolved equations because every equation has got two unknown variables, right? Now in question it is asking to derive equilibrium level of income and interest rate. How do we derive that? With the help of IS and LM equations. What do? Substitute. In some way you have got two equations and two unknown variables, and once you have got such combinations of equations and variables, you are able to derive easily the value of unknown two variables, right? So how you take these equations, right? So what do? We substitute the value of interest rate from LM equations into IS equations. So what do we get? We get y is equal to 5,000 minus 30. What is the value of interest rate? The value of interest rate is 0.05 y minus 100, right? Now we have got this expression where only one known variable is there, and that is your y, right? Now we solve for the value of y, we get the answer of equilibrium level of income for the economy, right? So what do we get? We write here y is equal to 5,000 minus 30 multiplied by 0.05, you get 1.5 y, and plus what do you get? You get 3,000, right? Now if you take 1.5 y to the left hand side, what do you get? You get y plus 1.5 y is equal to 8,000, right? So I've got it, 8,000. This is your nothing but 2.5 y, which is equal to 8,000, or y is equal to how much? 8,000 divided by 2.5 will give you 3,200, right? So we are able to find out the value of equilibrium income, 3,200, right? Now, once we have got the value of equilibrium income, we can substitute the value of equilibrium income in LM equation, right? To find out the relevant interest rate, right? At which money market is in equilibrium and also goods market is in equilibrium, because this equilibrium income stands for what? Goods market equilibrium, right? This income is corresponding to condition of goods market equilibrium, because we are deriving that equilibrium level of income assuming goods market is in equilibrium, right? So we substitute the value of equilibrium income here into LM equations, and what do we get? We get so when we substitute the value of y into LM equation, we get I is equal to 0.05 into 3,200 minus 100. So what is the multiplications that you get? You get what do you call 160, right, minus 100, and that gives you 60, right? Generally we express interest rate in terms of percentage, so it is nothing but 60%. So what do we get? We get interest rate, equilibrium interest rate here as 60%, right? So this is the answer for the first questions of this numerical question, right? That IS equation is equal to IS equation is y is equal to 5,000 minus 30i. LM equation is I is equal to 0.05y minus 100, and equilibrium income is 3,200 and interest rate is 60%, right? So this is your first questions of the numerical illustrations, right? The second question is about what is the effect of rise in real money supply by 200 on equilibrium level of income. In some way, we are trying to make assessment of that how does, if money supply rises, right, how does equilibrium income change, right? How does rise in money supply affect equilibrium level of income, right? So this is what your second question is basically asking, that how does expansionary monetary policy affect equilibrium level of income in the economy or GDP level in the economy, right? So how to solve that? For that, right, it is saying in the second question is basically saying that goods market remains unchanged. I mean, there is no change in government expenditure, etc., right? The change takes place only in money market, right? And how? The real money supply rises, right, by 200. Now how does that affect equilibrium level of income? How do we find out? Remember, when we are going to answer the second question, we have to keep in mind that goods market equilibrium remains unchanged, right? Because there is no change in government expenditure, autonomous components of aggregate demand, right? And therefore, IS equation will remain the same. That is y is equal to 5,000 minus 30i. What will change is the LM equation. And why LM equation will change? Because the change takes place in money market, right? Now, what is the condition of money market equilibrium? It is L is equal to, right? So we are trying to answer now the second questions, okay? So L is equal to you have this is what your condition of equilibrium in money market. So L is given by what you call 0.2y minus 4I, right? And what is now the money supply? The real money supply has gone by 200. How much was the real money supply previously? 1200 divided by 3. It was how much? 400, right? Now 200 real money supply has increased. What does it mean? Now the total real money supply is how much? 600, right? Now when we solve for the value of I, what do we get? We get what do you call? 4I is equal to 0.2i y 0.2y minus 600. Therefore I is equal to 0.05y minus 600 divided by 600 divided by 4 will give you 150, right? 150. Okay, so this is what your new LM equation. Okay, so let me, since we have already done this, so let me write here. Just remember that equilibrium income initially for the first question is y is equal to 3200 and interest rate is 60%, right? Let me write it here. Okay, so now we get new LM equations, okay, which I am writing here as I is equal to 0.05y minus 150 minus 150. This is your new LM equation. Now by using the new LM equation and the old IS equation, we can solve the new equilibrium income for the economy after rise in real money supply. Okay, so let us use it now. So what do? I try to find out equilibrium level of income, right, by substituting the value of interest rate from the new LM equations. So what do I get? I get y is equal to 5000 minus 30 I. And what is the value of I? I will not write now the previous value of I, because that becomes irrelevant. Why? Because this has been derived with respect to when real money supply is 400. Now the real money supply is now 600. Then this is the relevant LM equation. So I substitute here the value of I here. So 0.05y minus 150. So what do I get? I get y is equal to 5000 minus 30 multiplied by 0.05 gives me 1.5y, and plus how much do I get? I get 4500, right? I get 4500. Now I take this 1.5y to the left hand side. What do I get? I get 2.5y is equal to, if you add 5000 and 4500, I get 9500. And now I can find out the value of equilibrium income, which will be how much? It will be 3800. It will be 3800. It will be 3800, right? So how have I got 3800? I've taken this 2.5 to right hand side, divided 9500 by 2.5, I get 3800. So we get now new equilibrium income, y is equal to 3800, right? And this equilibrium income occurs because of what? Because of increase in money supply. So just to make it clear that 3800 equilibrium income occurs because of expansionary monetary policy. So let me write it here, just M, right? So new equilibrium income due to monetary policy is 3800, right? So let me write it here. This is what your new equilibrium income, 3800. Now what is the interest rate? We can find out the interest rate also, right? How? By substituting this equilibrium income in the new LM equations, right? And when we substitute this in new equilibrium income, new money market equilibrium equation, so what do I get? I get I is equal to 0.05. What is the value of Y? 3800 minus 150. So what is your this multiplication? This gives us, what do you call, if you multiply 0.05 into 3800, you get 190, right? Minus 150, how much you get? You get 40, right? So what is the rate of interest? Since we are presenting interest rate as percentage, so we write here as 40%. I is equal to 40%, right? So how much interest rate do I get? I get interest rate as 40%, right? So this is what your new situation in the economy is going to occur when money supply in the economy rises, right? So you get interest rate is equal to 40%. Now you can understand how does monetary policy work in the economy, right? When money supply rises, rate of interest falls. Previously rate of interest is 60, now the rate of interest is 40, right? Now when the rate of interest falls, investment, which is function of interest rate, rises, and that is what leads to rise in equilibrium income from 3200 to 3800. So there is rise of equilibrium income by 600, right? What does it mean? That expansionary monetary policy is able to raise the level of GDP, right? We are assuming a condition where price does not change, price is sticky, right? Generally it happens during the recession period that prices are generally sticky, they don't rise, okay? So you are able to use lever of monetary policy and you are able to raise the level of GDP, right? So this is how your monetary policy work. Numerically, we are able to illustrate that, right? The relationship between the rise in money supply and rise in output, okay? Now, so we are able to solve the second question. Let me now take up the third questions. And what is the third questions? The third question, so the third question, let me do away because I've already written there. So third question talks about what? The third question talks about what is the effect of rise in government expenditure by 200 on the equilibrium level of income and interest rate, assuming no change in real money supply. So real money supply remains 400 itself, right? What does rise now? Government expenditure rises. So let us see how effective fiscal policy is going to be in raising the level of GDP. This numerical illustration will make us understand, okay? So now since we are assuming that there is no change in money supply remains the same which was there in the first question, that means our LM equation is going to be this one, right? But what about IS equation? This IS equation will be no more relevant. Why? Because this IS equation has been derived with government expenditure 160. But now what happens? The government expenditure rises by 200. So what is the now total government expenditure? 360. So because of rise in components of aggregate demand, right, we have new IS equation, okay? We have to derive new IS equation, right? How do we derive? Again, with the same conditions, we take condition of equilibrium in the goods market, Y is equal to aggregate demand. And what is aggregate demand? uh, so we write here 360, that is your consumption function, 360, 0.8 y minus 200, assuming that there is no change in tax as question is suggesting, right? Plus your investment functions remains the same, right? So you've got 640 minus 6i, okay, and plus what else? The government expenditure. And what is the government expenditure now? The government expenditure is 360, 160 plus 200, right? Now what do we get? We get now, so by adding up 360, 640 and 360, we get 1360 plus 0.8 0y, and this is what? Your 160 minus 6i, right? So we have used all this, okay? So now we can write y is equal to, now 160 will be deducted from 1360, so you get how much? You get 1200 plus 0.80y minus 6i, okay? You take 0.80y to the left hand side. What do we get? We get 0.20y is equal to 1200 minus 6i. If I take y only to the left hand side, if we keep y in the left hand side, take this 0.20 to right hand side, what do we get? It gets 1200 gets divided by 0.2. So how much we get? We get 6000, right? Minus how much we get? We get 30, right? 30i, okay? So this is what your new IS equation. New IS equation, okay? So I'm writing here this new IS equation as y is equal to, I'm writing here as y is equal to 6000 minus 30i, right? Now, for third questions, which are the IS and LM equations relevant? What do you call? Not this one, the previous one, right? Because that assumes that money supply, real money supply remains at 400, and not this IS curve, because this has been derived with respect to government expenditure 160. So we use this LM equations and this IS equations, and with the help of these two equations we derive equilibrium level of income and interest rate for the third question, right? So how do we do that? Very simple. We have been doing, just substitute the value of interest rate from LM equation into new IS equation. So what do we get? We get y is equal to 6000 minus 30i minus 30i, okay? So here I can write for I can write the value of I from LM equations, relevant LM equations. So it is 0.05y minus 100, right? Now what do I get? I get y is equal to 6000 minus 1.5y and plus 3000. So if I take 1.5y to the left hand side, it gets added, so we get y plus 1.5y, which is 2.5y is equal to 9000, and therefore y is equal to, if I divide 9,000 by 2.5, how much I get? I get 3,600. How much do I get? I get 3,600. So we are able to derive new equilibrium income. Now can we derive interest rate? Yes. Substitute now new equilibrium level of income, right? Which we have derived on the basis of these equations and these equations, right? Into the LM equations or equations for interest rate. What do we have? 0.05 multiplied by 3,600 minus 100. How much do you get? We get, if you solve the equations, you get 180 minus 100. When you solve this, you get I is equal to 180 minus 100, and that gives us what? This gives us 80. Since it is interest rate, so I am writing it as percentage. So what has happened? That now the income has gone up. Since it has gone up because of expansionary fiscal policy, so let me write here YF. I mean, you may not write in the examinations, but just for your clarifications, I am writing here YF, rise in income due to rise in government expenditure or due to expansionary fiscal policy. How much equilibrium income is? 3,600. And what is interest rate? 80%. Okay. So when we don't follow monetary policy, we follow fiscal policy, right? How does it affect equilibrium income is very clear to you through these numerical illustrations, right? So when government expenditure rises by 200, your equilibrium income rises from 3,200 to 3,600. How much is the rise of equilibrium income? It rises by 400. And if income rises, what happens? Interest rate in the money market rises. Okay, interest rate in the money market rises. Earlier it was 60, now it becomes 80, right? So this is how your this is how numerical illustrations explain the role of monetary policy and fiscal policy in the economy, right? In influencing the GDP level in the economy, right? Now, after having done this, let us go to our fourth questions. And what is the fourth questions? The fourth questions talks about compute the fiscal policy and monetary policy multipliers, right? As you already know, right, there are formulas for fiscal policy multiplier. We have H alpha g upon S plus BK alpha g, right? And in case of monetary policy multiplier, it is B alpha g upon H plus BK alpha g. That is one way of calculating fiscal policy multiplier and monetary policy multiplier, right? But directly on the basis of these results also we can calculate fiscal policy multiplier and monetary policy multiplier. What is fiscal policy multiplier? FPM. I'm solving here the fourth questions. So you get the formula of fiscal policy multiplier as fiscal policy multiplier is nothing but it measures the ratio of change in income to change in government expenditure, right? So change in income upon change in government expenditure, right? Now, how much income increased due to only increase in government expenditure and not increase in money supply, right? So your income increased from 3,200 to 3,600 due to rise in government expenditure. By how much? By 200, right? So change in income is here 3,600 minus 3,200 divided by change in government expenditure is 200, right? So how much do we get? We get 400 divided by 200. So if we divide it, we get 2. What does it mean? That FPM is equal to 2. This is what you call fiscal policy multiplier, which tells you that government expenditure or fiscal policy is effective by 2 times. If you raise government expenditure by 100, your GDP will rise by 200. If you raise government expenditure by 600, your GDP will rise by 1200. If you raise government expenditure by 1000, your GDP will rise by 2000. And such rise in GDP happens with assumptions that goods market and money market are interdependent. If goods market is not dependent upon money market, then, and if you are operating in Keynesian range of LM curve, then rise in 1000 government expenditure would lead to much more, more than 2000 rise in equilibrium income, right? Because interest rate does not rise, right? So, so your fiscal policy multiplier is effective by the value of 2. Similarly, the way we have calculated FPM, we can also calculate monetary policy multiplier as it is being asked in the questions, right? So we have MPM, and what does MPM measure? We have already discussed in fiscal and monetary policy multiplier lecture that MPM is nothing but it is the ratio of change in income to change in real money supply. How much income rises due to rise in only money supply, keeping government expenditure and autonomous components of aggregate demand constant, right? So your income rises by from 3200 to 3800, which means it rises by 600, right? And how much money supply rises? Real money supply rises 200. So how many times your income rises due to rise in real money supply? 3 times, right? So you get 3. So monetary policy multiplier is equal to 3, right? Now what do we find? That monetary policy multiplier is more effective as compared to fiscal policy multiplier. In such situation, it is always advisable to use monetary policy rather than fiscal policy, right? So this MPM measures, MPM is equal to 3, which measures that if your real money supply rises by 100, then GDP will rise by 300. If real money supply rises by 1000, your GDP will rise by 3000, right? So this is what your MPM is, right? Now we have done 4 questions till now, right? Now, so let me write here FPM is equal to 2 and MPM is equal to 3. Okay, now we have got what? 5th question. And what is the 5th question? 5th question is asking, compute the increase in government expenditure required to achieve full employment if the full employment level of output is 4,700, right? So you have estimated, or economists have estimated, that the full employment level of output, which is mentioned in the question as 4,700, and suppose you are at initial equilibrium level of income and you have to achieve this full employment level of output using only fiscal policy, right? Then you can easily estimate the level of required rise in government expenditure to reach at full employment, right? How will you find out? You have fiscal policy multiplier, you know that to what extent fiscal policy is effective. Once you know to what extent fiscal policy is effective, you can find out the required change in government expenditure to change the level of GDP, which we have already calculated. And so how much your GDP must rise to reach at full employment level of output? So required change in output is full employment level of output, that is your 4,700 minus, and what is the initial equilibrium level of income? 3,200. So required change in income is how much? is your what do you call 1. So required change in income is 1500, right? So that means you have to raise the level of GDP by 1500 to reach at full employment level of output or income, or make the economy reach at full employment. Nobody is unemployed, right? Now how would you calculate? We can calculate with the help of fiscal policy multiplier, right? So what is the fiscal policy multiplier? The fiscal policy multiplier is what do you call change in output upon change in government expenditure, and we have already estimated it is what do you call 2, right? Now the required change in government expenditure for given delta y, which is 1500, we can easily calculate on the basis of this equation, right? So what do we get? We get, if I substitute the value of delta y, so I get 1500 is equal to 2 into delta g, right? Therefore delta g is equal to how much? It is equal to 1500 divided by 2, that is how much? 750, right? So the required increase in government expenditure is 750 to raise the level of output or GDP from 3200 to full employment level of output 4700, right? This is how we solve the questions based on IS-LM model. I hope such numerical illustrations help you to visualize the operation of fiscal policy and monetary policy in the economy, in determinations of level of GDP, in determinations of interest rate, and whole behavior of goods market and money market. When I'm talking about the behavior, it is defined in terms of what happens to GDP, what happens to interest rate. Thank you so much for watching this video.